Hi everyone, this is my video that I'm going to be doing of sketch number 2 from June. So it is a layout with 2 pictures, and I'm going to be using these 2 pictures of my daughter from when she was quite little. I'm using the in-flight punch and the cloud frame punch, and this video is running 2 times the speed, so hopefully that will help speed things up as you watch. I'm cropping down the photos according to the measurements on the video. So I've putting them down to 3.5 and 5.5. Just trimming off each of the photos using my guillotine cutter, which I like to use when I'm actually doing photo cutting. Okay, and I write the dates on the back, so I'm just saving the date off to the side there. So looking at what I have, I'm going to be using Totally Tonal Purple Ice for my purple color that matches my daughter's shirt. And I'm just looking through the colors that I have. I see that I do have a purple that's pretty close to her shirt color. So I'm going to be using that side, and I'm going to use this to cut out from the cloud frame punch. It's always important to make sure that you're lined up at the top as you go across. And you'll just see me punching here to make sure that I go all the way across. And then once I get to the end, what I want to do is I want to mimic the slant that is on sketch number 2. So I'm just trying to figure out the measurements. I was trying to kind of eyeball it, and then I realized that I probably actually want to measure it. There is a measurement that shows up on the sketch, and if you look at the measurement, it shows, I think, 1/2 inch on the one side and then 2 inches on the other side. So I'm using my mat to mark with my pencil the 1/2 inch and the 2 inches. And then what I'm going to do is actually take that to my larger cutter and cut that by just lining it up to the cutting line at that 1/2 inch and the 2 inch mark. And then I wanted to make my paper straight again. As I was trying to figure out, once you put something on a slant, then you end up with this, it won't go all the way across 12 inches. It needs to be a little bit longer than 12 inches. So I started cutting. I went to go cut my cloud punch. I actually grabbed the in-flight punch by mistake. And you'll see me kind of sit here for a while and realize, oh my gosh, I used the wrong punch. However, I'm going to keep those little bits because I will use them later in the layout. Okay, back to the cloud punch. What I'm trying to do is just get some excess punches of the clouds so that where I'm short on the 12 inches, I can just tuck in that extra piece. And you'll actually see later in the layout, I don't end up actually needing that extra space, but I'll show you what I did for that. So since I have this extra line, I actually went back in with the in-flight and cut a few more of the purple pieces that I'll use later. And just trimming that off because now I need to do the slanted piece that is on the bottom of the layout. So I'm saving back that piece of cloud that I'm going to use later. And then going again to do a full 12 inches of the cloud for the bottom of my layout. Okay. So I'm done with the cloud punch, and I'm just going to do the same thing as I did last time, where I need 1/2 inch on the one side and I need 2 inches on the other side so that I get the slant that I want. And taking that back to my cutter to quick cut what I need there. Okay, so next up, what I want to do is incorporate navy blue in there. My daughter is wearing navy blue on her pants that she's wearing, so I'm going to the Totally Tonal Blue and going through the different colors there to try to find a dark blue, like almost a navy. I have a few scraps of stuff, but realize that I do need to go again 12 inches all the way across, so just trying to find a full sheet. This piece actually has a gradient on it, so I'm just going to use the top or darker blue of the gradient that is present in this paper. So go ahead and punch. And this is kind of just a really cute punch because you can either use it with the negative or the positive. So the negative I'm going to be using across the layout, but the little pieces of the plane and the little sparkle and clouds, I'm going to save those with the purple pieces because I'll use them later for embellishments. So the idea is that the planes and clouds will sit behind the cloud frame punch. However, you'll see I'm struggling a little bit because I'm finding that it's really covering the planes a lot, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I'm just going to crop off this piece because I know that I will use it. And then I'm going to crop off a few extra pieces of navy. I was playing around, thinking, I need to cover those gaps so that the planes sit down a little further. And then I need that little 1/4 inch piece that's at the bottom of the layout. In the end, I don't end up using all these extra pieces, but you'll see what I do. So next up, I was looking at my inks. I always like to ink up my paper. So I was looking at my Creative Memories inks, trying to find a navy blue, and I actually don't have a navy blue in the collection at present. So hopefully that's something that they bring on. So what I'm going to do is actually go to my Tim Holtz inks, and I'm going to end up using chipped sapphire. So you'll just see a little pause in the video where I'm reaching into my Tim Holtz inks. So I'm using the chipped sapphire and putting away my other ink that I had out earlier for a different project. Okay, so I'm setting that up. You'll see I actually have like a kind of a rag that I'm using, and I just have this spare rag that I keep off to the side for when I'm changing my ink pads and stuff so that I hopefully don't end up with too much ink on my hands. So I'm just inking up the white background that I'm going to be using for this. And once I'm all done the white background, I'm going to try to figure out how far down I need to go so that the planes are showing. And you'll see me kind of playing around. I'm playing around quite a bit with how I'm going to get this to work. Obviously using gradient paper, it's a little bit tricky because it's not a perfect match. But in the end, I think it camouflages it okay. What I finally ended up doing is actually lining up that piece of blue underneath the clouds first, And I'm just inking up my clouds here. And the next few minutes, you'll actually see that I did struggle quite a bit to try to kind of piece all these pieces together for the look that I was looking for. I absolutely love the in-flight punch, but it does sit very close to the edge of the paper for obvious reasons, because it needs, you're putting your paper in and you're lining it up. But I wanted to make sure that the navy blue was showing through on the clouds. So here I used my large repositionable tape dispenser and my repo tape. I always like to use that for patterns that are kind of more delicate and that I can just roll away. So you'll see how this lines up right now. But then I realized, I want to have a little bit more slant possibly on the planes so that it follows the slant. I'm kind of, in the end, I actually decided to tuck the planes underneath the clouds, but that they still showed. And I'm trying to get a better match because of the gradient, and the white core of the paper was showing a little bit, so I'm trying to hide that. It's funny to look back on screen and you can't actually see that they don't match, but of course in person things are always different. And you'll kind of watch me struggle back and forth, and finally I decided to actually mount this piece down so that it's going to sit in one place for me, and then that would allow me to kind of play around and tuck in that piece with the planes, the in-flight piece, a lot better. And just getting that lined up really well. You'll see, as I mentioned, because it is 12 inches and we're putting on a slant, you need more than 12 inches. And this is the true struggle bus over and over again of me trying to get this underneath. So I ended up using my Creative Memories multi-purpose tool to kind of lift the clouds and tuck underneath. And I'm trying to kind of keep everything lined up as I'm tucking. And this actually is probably what took me the very longest. It's really hard when you have a concept that's in your head of what you want something to look like, but then to try to achieve it is not always easy. So I'm going back and forth, tucking. Things are coming untucked. In the end, I end up putting some glue, some of the repositionable adhesive on the back of this in-flight strip to get it to stay in place so that I can start tucking and it doesn't keep coming untucked when I go to the next section of clouds. It's I find it kind of humorous to look back on my own videos, and I'm sure if you ever recorded yourself, you would kind of see the same thing too, where you feel like you spent so much time on such a little thing. So here I'm just rubbing away any excess repo tape, and of course I ripped my strip, so here we go. Honestly, the end result came out absolutely beautiful, but ending up trying to get the look that I was trying to go for was not easy. So what I did was I ended up laying the strip down and then using my multi-purpose tool to lift the clouds out from behind the in-flight strip, and that ended up working the best. I'm just rubbing away any excess glue that I didn't need. I can't imagine what my carpet looks like before I vacuum each time. So you'll see on the right hand side, I'm a little short. So what I'm doing here is tucking in those extra pieces that I had cut to try to cover up that white space. And then I'm slipping in some more of the blue. I think it's close enough to the edge that it wouldn't be super obvious that there was, that the pattern didn't repeat. And you'll see that this side caused me, a lot of grief while I was trying to get that blue piece to tuck under. And so we've got like 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that I'm trying to all fit together. And from a distance, it looks good, but up close, everything was kind of like it really looked, you could tell that I had like pieced all these pieces together, like a real little Frankenstein moment here. So I actually got out my blue ink to try to cover up this whole section that was all pieced together and to try to blend it all together. And it's all because in her picture, she's making a plane. So I'm just cutting off the excess from the back side of the paper, the base paper. I'm doing that on that side and then doing it on the other side as well. Okay, so inking it up, trying to kind of, again, cover up where I've Frankensteined all that paper together. And overall, I'm happy with the look, but there's a lot happening there. So what I end up doing is I end up actually taking 1 inch off of this side completely. And all my Frankenstein work is gone, and I'm taking 1 inch off of the bottom. And what I'm going to do is actually use some purple ice cardstock to add as a background, as a border all the way around. And that way I don't have to worry about where paper is short. It doesn't matter if it's short because I will be, I've cropped it down so it's only 11 inches long on the sides and then 11 inches tall. It does impact overall the layout, but in the end, it ended up turning out really well. And all of that maneuvering that I did with all these extra little pieces was for nothing, but that's okay. That's what scrapbooking is all about, is kind of learning what would work best. So I'm now adding that slant piece on the bottom as well. And because it's only 11 inches now, I'm able to very easily put it across and not worry about any gaps of white that are showing on either side. I don't have those gaps at all, which is really nice. So I'm just going to finish up inking here. And then I'm going to be grabbing cardstock to add to the back. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be using Purple Ice cardstock. And I noticed actually the top of my cardstock is faded. I can't figure out how it faded because I keep my cardstock in an enclosed box. But anyway, regardless, I did end up flipping that faded edge to the back. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually going to gut the paper, and I'm putting my clips in at 1.5 and at 10.5, and then pushing the paper over to the 1.5 mark. So that is going to give me just a little frame that I can drop in behind that 11 by 11. So it's at like 10.5 and 10.5. I was kind of rushing here, so just breaking out that, and then inking that all up so it's ready to drop in behind. I don't know if you prefer inking or not. I've gotten so used to it that I don't very often not ink. Just depends on how complicated the pattern is. I have done very, very complicated layouts where it's just too hard to add in the ink. Here again, I'm using my repositionable tape because I find it's a little more forgiving when you're trying to line something up and drop something in. It gives you a little bit of a way to shift it back and forth. And I'm just making sure that my background paper is lined up properly. And I mentioned in my last video, I like to look at the diagonal, so where those corners are lining up with the little diagonal pieces. And I'm definitely an eyeballer. It's not the end of the world if it's not completely lined up. And I do prefer white glue to put down any tiny pieces. Sometimes I'll use white glue on my lettering as well. Okay, so we have our base, which took quite a while. If I look at the video, it was actually about 40 minutes that it took me to do that base. And then after that, the rest of this goes a lot more quickly. I really enjoy doing double mats on layouts. This layout didn't call for a double mat, but I did go ahead and put some white cardstock in behind the two photos, and then I actually used some navy cardstock to pull in that dark blue color into the layout so that's not just at the top. So here I'm measuring this. I like to do kind of a 1/4 of an inch bigger, so I guess it's like 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So that's at 3.75 by 5.75, which is technically all that the layout sketch called for, but I'm going to add another layer from that. So I'm just inking these up. And then, as I mentioned, I actually use navy blue as my other color. And I do keep some scraps from any time that I'm doing a layout. I have a plastic sleeve where I keep any scraps. I'm just making sure that that is a full 12 inches so I know what I have to play with. And I went to go cut it at 6 inches and then realized that's kind of going to waste some paper. So you'll see me kind of hesitating over and over again. My brain's like, that doesn't make sense. So then I actually went to 4 inches and then did my 6 inches. I don't ink up these because it's so close to the chipped sapphire color. It doesn't really need any inking. And you will see in this video, I'm going to be getting out some Scotch tape runner. And the reason being is I was going through my supplies and realizing I had some really old tape runners that were just perfectly fine. They were actually still in the package. So I've decided to try to use up my supplies, and mainly I use Creative Memories and 3L. Those are my two favorites, but I'm trying to use up some excess tape runners. So I have a bunch of Tombow left. I have some Scotch ones left. And so you'll see those in some of my videos. But for repositionable tape, I'm pretty diehard Creative Memories. It works really well. Now I was looking at the sketch, and they actually do overlap the two photos, and the actual photos overlap, but the frames don't overlap. So it's just kind of a neat way to do it. And I knew that I wanted to have the one picture where she's more to the side, I wanted that one underneath, and then the full straight on picture, I wanted that one over top. So I'm just kind of playing around with the angle. I decided to follow the angle of the in-flight strip and keep that left picture straight. So I already knew my placement. I knew where I wanted them to go. So I'm just holding them in place and using my tape runner and just slipping it underneath to get those all mounted. And sometimes it's hard to slip your finger underneath, so I've been just using my multi-purpose tool to just lift the photo and get the tape underneath. So, right here, so this is, I think it's to like clean your cell phone cover or glass. It's to clean your, your computer or your laptop glass. I like to use it to shine up my pictures, especially this set of pictures was done in glossy. And so I find the fingerprints show a lot. So I was using this little towel to just rub my pictures and get fingerprints off of it. And now I'm going into my lettering, and I have the mini letters in navy blue, or navy, I guess it was called. And I'm using my my ruler to line everything up. But because I already have like 3 layers going on here, like I have double matted photos, and so I do find it sits at the height of whatever's sitting on your picture, so it's not down flat against the white paper. It helps as a guide. It's a good guide to get started. But in the end, you'll see I actually end up just pushing it down to the bottom while I'm trying to get all of my letters all lined up. And so I'm just dropping in letters here. I like to sometimes build backwards depending on the space that I know that I am working with. And so you'll see me dropping in my letters. The last letter on that first word is actually a G, but because it hangs lower than the ruler, I actually hand drop it in after. And for my eyes, for now, I am not putting the dots in. I actually will add in the dots after because they're always tricky to get them off the sticker sheet. So I line up all my letters, and it's kind of getting a little messy, and I realize my U's not lined up properly. My B is definitely not lined up. So this is when I start just manually putting in the letters, which I think works okay. It's sometimes a little bit easier, especially when you have a bunch of other letters that are already there. It doesn't have to be super perfect. Sometimes I'll actually draw lines. Sometimes I will line them up on a ruler or on one of the CM tools and then drop them in. which works good when they're nice thick letters, but when they're thinner letters like this, it's a little bit more difficult. I use the ruler to decide the height of the next word. And then I think I make it, 2 letters in. Yeah, I think about 2 letters in, and then already nothing's lining up. So I'm using my multi-purpose tool and just manually putting my letters in. Again, this is my own personal scrapbook, so I don't feel like I have to be a perfectionist with my letters, because if I was, then I probably would never get enough done. So I have my title here now. I ended up calling it Building Stuff, and it is a layout where my daughter actually went to Home Depot, and they had a little free workshop for kids, and they got to build little planes. So that's a little wooden plane, and they got to use like nails and hammers, and it was just kind of neat for the kids. And so that's why I ended up using the in-flight. So now you'll see I actually have this little pokey tool that I use, and I'm getting the little ends off of for the eyes, and I've dropped those in. Looking back on the sketch, I'm just looking at where the embellishments all go, and now I can use all those little scraps that I left behind. And I played around a bit with the different scraps that I had. I tried, a shadow effect, since I had all of this, dark blue punch outs. And then I decided I didn't think I actually really liked the shadow. So I used some of the dark blue to pull it down to the bottom of the picture here. And then I kept the purple up at the top left, and then just enhanced it a little bit with the dark blue. So you'll see I'm just playing with all the little punched out pieces. And I do end up inking the little purple cloud and the purple plane. And I do use my white glue to put these down. You could probably pop them up if you wanted to. I didn't end up popping them up. This is one of the last pages in a scrapbook that I'm doing, and it's getting to be pretty hefty scrapbook. So again, I mentioned I'm just inking up anything that's purple, and you'll see I actually flipped that cloud to the polka dot side just for something interesting. Kind of keeps it fun. So I'm just gluing these pieces down in the top left, and just according to the sketch. And you'll see I actually do overlap right onto my purple ice border as well. And just dropping one more cloud in there. And then I actually get out my little enamel dots. And the enamel dots were from This Life. So I have a bunch of rainbow ones, and then I have a bunch of different colored ones and stuff that came with florals, and I still have a lot of those. So I'm using the dark blue and the light purple little dots to drop that in. And the last thing that I do is just add in some journaling. So I'm using my micro tip, my navy blue micro tip, and just looking at the date that I had saved to the side, dropping that in, and just doing a little bit of journaling about what this layout is all about. Again, I would totally freehand. I appreciate using my own handwriting and my own layout, and that's what I'm doing here. And that is pretty much the full layout all done. I'm really happy with it. I'm just going through and actually doing a word count because I'm doing a challenge right now with my CM advisor, Shelley. And so I'm looking at how many numbers or letters I need there. And that's it. Thank you.